Touch this week. Dan Laren and Mary Houlihan, who are both with the Commonwealth's Attorney Office. Mary, now, Dan, I know you're a prosecutor. We'll get to that. Mary, talk to us about what you do in Ray's office.
All right, I'm the Director of Victim Services. So our division handles all the felony crimes that have a victim, a direct victim, so a violent crime, rape, murder, robbery, these sorts of things. And we help the victim through the court process. We refer them for whatever kind of services or community support they need, and then keep them informed as the case processes through court.
Okay, so you stay with the victims, make sure they get through everything okay. I'm
That's right.
sure you continue to follow up with them afterwards if they need it, right?
Yes, sometimes, you know, the closing of a case by sentencing does kind of end our legal commitment to the victim. However, you know, you develop relationships with them. Sometimes you're the person that they see as the entire court system, for better or for worse. That can mean that they're madder at you than anybody else, just based on the way that the court processes the case. But sometimes it's just people that they know they can call back later and get a good reference or resource for other community.
So we're going to talk about a case today. You're going to talk about this, or Mary's going to? Who's going to kick it off? You're going to talk about it?
Okay.
Kick it off?
Sure.
One of the many cases that you prosecuted. This is one of the more serious cases we were talking about on the seriousness scale here. Tell us about the victim and the suspects, and tell us the story here.
Well, this case came to us through the Lexington Police Department, as most of them do. Detective Chris Russell, who's with, I believe they call it the Special Victims Section. He's what they call an elder abuse or an adult abuse detective. He was assigned to investigate a complaint that came to us. The patrol officers took a report from a complainant, a young lady who's 21 years of age, who had some very significant mental issues. And the nature of the complaint was that she was being mistreated by her caregiver, I think is the right word. This is a woman who was paid to take care of this 21-year-old handicapped woman. And Detective Russell did a very complete and thorough investigation, and he discovered that this lady's name was Patricia Hacker. She's, I believe, 42 years of age at this point. She was employed by a caregiver. Her job was to provide what they called one-on-one or 24-hour coverage for this young lady. And instead of doing things like taking her to the store to shop, or to the mall, or to the pool to swim, she took her to a local adult entertainment venue and got her a job as a dancer. And the investigation further revealed that Ms. Hacker had been instrumental in setting up a sexual encounter with this victim and a man who was a patron of the strip club. And so he brought the case to us. We presented it to the grand jury, and this lady was indicted for knowingly abusing or neglecting an adult, which is a Class C felony, 5 to 10 years. And that's where we were. She got an attorney. As the case went on, we learned a little bit more about it. Mary and I went out and interviewed this young lady, I believe, twice. I know we talked to her at some length. And after you talked to this girl for a little while, it was obvious that she had some mental issues. And without going into a lot of detail, she had a number of mental conditions, and her IQ was estimated to be in the range of 65. So we learned all of that. In talking to this young lady, we learned that she did not want to go to trial. She was very scared of taking the stand and telling a jury of strangers what had happened to her. So the case.
Was she at a point where she felt like that she was a victim, or did she not understand?
Mary could probably answer that better than I could.
Yeah, I believe she felt like she was a victim. The taking her to a strip club to enroll her as an employee came out of her very understandable request and discussion with this care provider that she wanted to learn to dance.
Okay.
Very innocently wanting to do
like
that.
Dancing with the Stars kind of dance. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and but she's not somebody that can gauge the different situations
Sure.
she was brought into. She had to have trust in the employee that was paid to care for her, and so she wouldn't have necessarily known that this wasn't that when she initially started. But she told me that once she got on stage and saw the kind of people in the spot, she was really scared and didn't want to do it and was uncomfortable. And then maybe she didn't realize it was a violation of the law, but certainly the police, Detective Russell did an excellent job on this case, and his involvement, I think, comforted her in understanding that it was not okay, but it still, the legal process was beyond her, and she never felt she wanted to be a part of the court proceedings.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
Well, we negotiated with the defense attorney in this case, who wanted us to make a reduced offer, and we talked about it. We met with the victim.
well,
And
why would you do that? If you've got a case where it's cut and dry to the extent that you've got the victim that says, yes, she asked me to do this. The defendant, did she make any statements?
She basically said that it was the victim's idea.
Okay.
She initially denied it all when she was interviewed at her place of employment, and then when the police interviewed her, she said that it was what the victim wanted to do, and she just was carrying out her wishes.
Okay, so she says this, you got the victim, you got
Right.
the police detective who says it's obvious that this person's mental capacity is such that a crime has occurred.
Mhm.
Why would you try to negotiate with
The
them?
only reason we would really make a lower offer is if we have an evidentiary weakness in our case, and in this particular case, we didn't.
So whenever you hear the term plea bargain, generally the prosecution is having to bargain from more of a position of weakness.
Well, we
From an
like to,
evidence standpoint?
right, we like to, of course, hold all the cards.
Sure.
Unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't happen, but the traditional
Doesn't mean the
reason-
person's not guilty.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely.
Exactly. It
And,
just-
and to be honest with you, if we had to try all about 18 or 1900 felony cases we had every year, our courts would overflow instantly.
Okay, so there's two reasons you may be in a position of weakness. One
Right.
is caseload.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. And the other is maybe there's not quite as much evidence as you would like to have, because in order to prove in order to arrest as a police officer, we have to prove something called probable cause.
That's
which
absolutely correct.
is not hard to get there. You have to have probable cause to believe that this person committed this crime, and you use the word reasonable in there.
Right.
A police officer makes the arrest, well then you get the case. You have to take it beyond probable cause and get that indictment, right? From the grand jury, and then from there, now you have to take a case that started off as probable cause and go before a jury and prove it beyond a
Reasonable doubt.
reasonable doubt. Now, how do you define reasonable doubt?
Well, we're not allowed to in
Okay.
a trial. Where the law is that neither the judge nor the defense attorney nor the prosecutor can tell a jury what reasonable doubt is. The general theory is that they recognize it when they see it, kind of like pornography.
You know it when you see
Know it when you see it.
You know what it is. And now that's different than a shadow of a doubt, which seems
Right.
to be in the cases I've been involved with.
Right.
The defense wants to make the jury believe that you have to prove guilt beyond the shadow of a doubt, which is almost impossible.
Sure.
You have to see it happen.
Right.
And then sometimes you can even doubt did you,
Mhm.
you're going to believe your own eyes, you're going to believe me.
Right.
You've got that too. You got someone that's convincing enough. So you got to get to this point of reasonable doubt. So
Right.
that's why sometimes you'll look at a case and go, you know what? I know the person did it, because if you didn't believe the person did it as a prosecutor, you probably wouldn't prosecute him anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? You've reached that standard. But because we have issues, and in this particular case, the issue could be this defendant is saying, well, I didn't know her IQ was 65, right?
Well,
That's what she's saying.
That would not have worked for this particular defendant.
Why not?
We had Detective Russell got her employment records, and in those records was a test that she took about
The defendant.
Right.
Okay.
The defendant passed a small written exam about the victim's mental and physical disabilities.
Okay.
So in this particular case, the defense attorneys always ask us for something lower than the charge. That's
Sure.
just what they do.
Sure.
The only thing in this case was that the victim did not want to testify, and without going into a lot of detail, we had another case out at Jacobson Park that involved a victim with some mental infirmities that was taken advantage of, and in that case we went to trial, and it's pretty easy to trick somebody like that on the stand and make them say things that
Exactly.
they don't understand. But in this particular case, we talked it over with the other prosecutors in the office and so forth, and we decided that we weren't going to make a lower offer.
You had enough evidence.
We
The crime
absolutely
was-
did, and
was just awful.
and we thought that if we took this case to trial, we would likely do better than 5 years, which is the minimum in this case, because this is a pretty significant abuse of trust. This woman was supposed to take care of this victim and provide for her, and instead she turned her into a stripper and set her up to have sex with strangers. We don't like that.
Yeah.
So
Tune in to the following stations every Sunday to hear In Touch with Ray the DA and Officer Don. We hope you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned in for next week's episode.